What's up YouTube? Welcome back to KGB Knives. Kyle here. In today's episode, it'll be the second part of my how to build a neck knife. The first part was design and profile of the knife, and in today's we're going to be talking about how to lay in the bevels. Alright. Before that, I've got two new additions to the shop. The kiln that I was talking about in a previous video, and I picked up a VFD off eBay. So after this, I'm going to go over, show you the two, and then we'll get into how I go about doing the bevels. Okay everybody, so this is my VFD right here. I picked it up off eBay for about 40 bucks or something like that. It was a really good deal. I couldn't really pass it up. I've been holding out for a really good deal on one of these things because they are expensive if you buy them brand new and to get a good one. This one is a completely encased one, so there's no vents. I see a lot of guys buy the cheap Chinese ones that have the vents on them. But over time, the metal shavings and metal dust gets in there and makes contact on things that shouldn't have contact. So I've been holding out for quite a while to get this. I got it hooked up to a 3-phase motor, and works really good. It's going to be great for sharpening knives and doing finish work post heat treat. Here's the new kiln. It's made by Kenjin. I'm not going to get too far in depth with any specifics on it now because I'm going to be doing a heat treating video in this series, along with a heat treating, a whole series dedicated to heat treating. I've been messing around with it all week long, and it's got a lot of features that I really like. The one thing that I really like that's different about this kiln from most of the ones you'll see on the market from like Even Heat and Paragon is that the knives are fixed so that they dangle inside the chamber of the kiln. And there's two chambers. There's a bottom section and a top section, so that when you open the forge up, the heat of the, I'm sorry, not the forge, but the kiln, but so that when you open the lid to the kiln up, that all the heat doesn't escape out of the bottom chamber, so that it keeps the blades at temperature without as much interference as possible. And in the heat treating videos that I show you, I'll show you shots of the inside of the kiln, and it all makes sense in those videos. But that's all I'm going to tell you about the kiln for now. Alright, so I just want to go ahead and apologize in advance. Some of my neighbors, they just moved in like diagonal across behind us. Sounds like they're out there singing and having a good old time. But alright, so I got my my profile blade that we worked on the other day. I've got my Dicom, and I've got my calipers. Alright, so basically what I do, I haven't really seen too many people do it this way, but this is kind of how I do it. So I mark my Dicom where I want my grind to end towards the spine of the knife on either side, and then I have a little kind of like a little trademark. I have 3 drill holes that I drill into them in basically like a triangle pattern. But I'll bring my my bevel edge just above the top 2 holes, and you'll see more once I get it on the close-up camera. All right, enough yakking. I'm going to go ahead and start marking these bevels. Alright, so what I'm doing here is I'm just taking the blue Dicom and lining it up and basically just painting it on here. Make sure my calipers are all zeroed. Not that it really matters too much for this. It matters down when we're on the edge of the blade, marking the edge of the blade, but for this it doesn't really matter because I am making sure that it's going to be lined up right above top 2 holes on my bevel, which is almost an inch. You know, it's 931 thou. So it's almost an inch. I personally, my personal opinion, what I like to see are bevels that go really close to the spine. I don't like the Scandi grinds and things like that. I'm not a big fan of them, but everybody has their preference. So I'll go ahead and line it up here. Okay. Alright, and I'll just go ahead and repeat the same thing on the other side. Alright, so that's where my bevels are going to end. Now that we have that all marked up on there, the blue Dicom with the spine side on the blade, okay, I do that first because I noticed that when I was doing that after I would mark my blade edge, if you do that with the calipers, then it'll put marks and lines and scratches and things like that. It makes it a little bit hard to see what you're actually supposed to be grinding to when you get on the grinder. So I do that first, so I get a nice clean lines to grind to on the cutting edge side. Another thing I do is I mark down the cutting edge, and also here on the spine I mark my center point. I notice that having those lines help me line up the bevels a lot better and have awesome spot on geometry. So what I'm going to do is measure the thickness of my steel, which is 5/32, so it should be about 156, 157 thou. Basically the rough math on that already 78 thou is what the center point of the blade would be. What I do, because I grind pre-heat treat, is I add a thou to that, so it'll be 79 thou that I'll set my calipers to. It'll help me from having warpage and things like that. Now, when it comes to heat treating, there's a few things that I do a little bit differently to kind of minimize the amount of warpage you have. I find that keeping it about 2 thou really helps with keeping the warpage down. And then it's easy to grind down to 1/1000th or 1/2 thou before you put your cutting edge on. So I'll make sure that my calipers are all zeroed out. Then I'll go from there. I'll go up to 79 thou. Alright, here we go. There we go. 79 thou. Now what I'll do with the Dicom is I'll paint it here on the spine of the knife. Okay, then I'll let that dry. You know, with the Dicom, the key to it is not letting it dry all the way, but not marking it while it's still wet. As you do it more and more, you'll kind of get the hang of it. So I don't know if it's showing up in the camera or not, but I can see it pretty defined in person with the old naked eye. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to the cutting edge and basically do the same thing there. I don't know if it's coming up on the old GoPro here or not, but I've got my lines scribed in there. I'll go ahead and take it over to the big camera. Well, I gave it a good try on getting this all focused up in the DSLR, but it just didn't want to focus that close on the lines. So hopefully the GoPro is picking it up good. So now that that's all done, we're going to head over to the grinder and start grinding out the bevels. Okay, I got y'all on the old GoPro stick. We're over here at the grinder. I got a 60 grit bevel on here right now. So we're gonna set the bevels in at 60 grit. I'll switch over to my above shot camera, which you can probably see up there in the top of the shot. But we'll switch over to that, and I'll try to explain things on there as we're going. All right, here we go. I got my 60 grit on here. We're going to go ahead and start up the grinder and start laying in these bevels. First, what I'll do is I'll lay in 45 right here along the edge of the blade. All right, I'll come pretty close to where I want to end my bevel, but not all the way there, so that I can start lining and inching my way up to the top of this bevel. I'll probably do one side, show you how I do that on camera, do the other side, and then I'll show you the final results after that. Alright, here we go. Alright, so that's it for the 60 grit. You can see it's really rough right here. This side's fairly decent, but as we start working our way up the grit, we'll start evening all that stuff up. It doesn't have to be spot on because it's all, of course, pre-heat treat, but we'll make sure that everything looks nice and crisp when we get to the post-heat treat. Alright, so we're going to switch up to 150 grit, throw it on, and we'll start up and go from there. Now that's it for the 120 grit. I'm going to switch up to my Trizac, which will be about a 250 grit, sorry, a 220 grit belt. My battery's about to die on the camera, so it'll probably die before I finish it up. I'm going to go ahead and finish this out on the 220, and then come back maybe tomorrow and finish up the rest of this video. Well, that's about it for today's video. As you can see here, I got the bevels set in on either side. I don't have them perfectly set in, I just have them up to about 220 grit. After, when I get the post heat treating, I'll take it up to about 420 grit. I'll put in a little acid bath to kind of get rid of the scratch marks and hit it with a little bit of steel wool. That's about it for this video. I took each of the bevels up to 220 degrees. They're not perfect. If you notice here, the plunge, I guess where the plunge line meets the spine here on this side, is a little bit more rounded on this side than it is on this side. No big deal. I'll just finish that up when I get to the post heat treat on the grinder. The main reason why I'm waiting until I get done is because it's so close to where the ricasso is, and I don't want the ricasso to creep too far back prior to the final grind. So that'll just get all fixed up, brought back into place later on when we're done the heat treat. Well, that about wraps it up for this video. Thank you guys for hanging in there and sticking around as I learn how to do things with videography and all that. I know some of the shots might not be perfect and things like that, but as I make more videos, I'll improve upon it. If I get a good bit of people that are following, a lot of people that are interested in my videos, as time goes on, maybe I'll get some better equipment to make sure that I have a better product for you guys. That's about it for this episode. The next episode is going to be the heat treating, so I'm sure that's what everybody is excited about. Thank you guys for tuning in today. Go ahead and please like, subscribe, or comment on this video, and I hope to see you for the next video. Thanks, guys.